Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markel. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your Conscious Pivot.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Markel, and I am taking big, deep breaths this afternoon. I was just before hitting the record button, speaking to this amazing guest, this beautiful, lovely woman that I'm going to get to introduce you to in just a moment. But before we hit the record button, we were kind of having a little rant, and I'll just readily admit the rant was about how poor the communication seems to have gotten, or as much as communication has always been a challenge in the world. It's been a challenge in relationships. I'm blessed that I'm married to my college sweetheart for 29 years. And I can tell you that if you ask me what has been the most difficult thing and the most challenging thing and the most blessed thing that we've learned in being able to navigate life together with 4 kids and multiple moves of location and all that kind of thing, the one thing would be communication. That's been the area of growth. It's been our growth edge, and it's been the place where we've been able to find harmony to continue forward and love even at a deeper level. And communication seems to have fallen off a cliff. There's just so many people these days that are not responding to emails. They're not responding to text messages. They're just all these open loops, and then pretty ineffectual apologies for that kind of thing. In fact, I was just sharing that I managed to get somebody kind of jar them loose after many emails of not responding. And I wrote them a text that said, have we mistreated you in some way? And that somehow got in there. And then they wrote back to say, no mistreatment. So sorry. Been so busy, etc. So I don't know if any of you are experiencing that and are frustrated with that in your business or in your personal life, or maybe you're perpetrating it. I have to look at myself clearly in that regard as well. But it is definitely something that we may cover on the show today. I don't know. We'll see. But it is not necessarily something I think is positive in our world. And I'm a very positive person, and this has got me. I got to tell you, got me going. So I want to introduce this amazing guest that I have today, and we're gonna have a great conversation. She's a dynamo. She's a very interesting, and I would say somebody that has a very varied background and has diversity of experiences and opinions about things. So she's going to be a very interesting person for you guys to listen to. So whether if you're on the treadmill, keep walking, keep running, whatever you're doing, but pay close attention. If you're in the car or you're in front of your computer, whatever you're doing, you might want to take notes on this session today. So I'll just share a little bit about her, and then we'll dive right in. Her name is Jacquie Jordan. She's a 2-time Emmy-nominated TV producer, a New York Times best-selling publisher, the founder of TVGuestpert, and author of 2 incredible books, Get on TV and Heartfelt Marketing. And I love how we just could bullet point these incredible accomplishments. Welcome to the show today, Jacquie.
Thank you so much, Adam, for having me on. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, I have not launched a podcast that way before. I'm more the real touchy-feely guy. Get everybody breathing, get in your heart space, be in gratitude.
I love the authenticity also of just being real and frustrating. I think that we're communicators. That's what I do for a living. I'm a professional communicator. I create narratives for a living in different mediums. And, we are definitely seeing a shift in how people are communicating or not communicating. And I think the fight for people's attentions and to people's lack of attention sovereignty is severely contributing to the bandwidth that people have available to complete communications. And professionally, it is a little crazy making. So I appreciated your realness, and
thank you.
Starting to show that way.
Very cool.
Directed at me.
No, right. Nothing to do with you. How nice. How lovely. Before we dive into that or some other deep pool, which I'm looking forward to, what's something that's not written in your bio? I mean, I just bullet pointed it, but it's a very extensive experience in business and marketing and TV and publishing, etc. What's something that's not written in any version of your bio that you would love for people to know about you?
Great first question. That's like probably the best first interview question ever. What's not in the bio is, and it's probably my upcoming pivot, if I'm going to be specific, is what I do for a living is I help promote people, businesses, narratives into, mostly I'm known for mainstream media through TVGuestpert and TV on camera training, and our publishing company, TVGuestpert Publishing. And, but what I really feel like I am is an alchemist. Like, I take the ideas that have not materialized and I help businesses, people, situations material their ideas. So one of my favorite keynotes that I have the privilege of doing is called Grounding the Spiritual in the Material. And but I've been playing around with the idea. Backing up earlier this morning, I was speaking with a client, and she said to me, "Oh, based on your presentation, Jackie, I didn't know you were spiritual." And it kind of like thud me, because, I feel like that's the primary principle of which I exist, as a spiritual being having a human experience. And my outgrowth of that is helping other people with their expression in the material world of that through the structures of business and finances and storytelling. So when she said that to me, I was like, oh my God, thud. But I've also been playing with this idea of what it means to be spiritual. And because I promote experts, primarily I'm known for promoting experts in the media and helping them build their media platforms and their media businesses, which I love doing. But I'm seeing a big pivot in the collective that the guru is going away. So we're not going to be following
Thank goodness. I'm sorry. Yes. Did I say that out loud?
Yes.
The false prophets that exist so frequently around us. Oh,
yes.
What a shame that'll be to see that disappear.
Exactly. And
sorry, I don't normally interrupt that way, but you and
I are on the same page. Yeah. This is the pivot. So to answer the question of what's not in my bio is now my responsibility to my client base, to my future clients, and I want to stay away from calling it spiritual, because the spiritual elitism can be just as distorted. So I've just been calling it humanitarian. Right.
It can be just as hypocritical, people that cloak something under the umbrella of spirituality or
who's done
something
more
else
on themselves than somebody else.
Right.
Who's got more information. Yeah. So the pivot is bringing my clients, and this is what you do with your podcast and your work, is that whole authenticity piece. So it's about not being a guru, but still being, but we need to be out in the world. If people don't know about us, we can't help more people. So it's about bringing the humanitarian expert, the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that, a person has brought to themselves, and then bringing them out into the storytelling of mediums. And I think the other pivot that's going on, that at least professionally I'm experiencing, but professionally it's happening across the board, is that the mediums are changing. So I've come from syndicated broadcast television, we're moving into short form, what I've been calling micro content. So now we're telling micro content because those very same people have attention spans and bandwidths now like this. Not like it used to be, where you could sit down and watch a long form program where we're just getting our information in tids and bits. But it also is why we can be so manipulatable also to information, because there's
very little context that you get. So it's more soundbite and therefore room for
pop it. You don't have to substantiate it. If you just pop it out there loud enough, then we're all going to, you can walk away believing that coconut oil is actually bad for your health.
Or even potentially worse, that we share that information as though it's authoritative. Right? Yes.
Yes. And as a result,
there's a whole group of people around here that don't inoculate their kids. I mean, I'm taking a risk when I say this now, because there'll be people who will listen to this and go, "You're out of your mind. You don't know what you're talking about." It's like, do the research and know that the studies that were quoted were inaccurate, and the conclusions about inoculations of children were largely not accurate. And yet now there are whole groups of people who will not inoculate their babies because they believe that it causes autism or other things, and those are patently been proven to be false.
Just do your research, do your research.
You
know, the coconut oil study was from the American Heart Association, was paid for by the corn syrup industries, or the corn industry. So it had a different agenda. And so it's a rabbit hole of information, and he who controls the narrative controls mostly the consciousness. And then we're complicit in the consent of consciousness. And so that's the big picture. And
so what does this mean to little old you?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So here I am with this
little old man.
In Silicon Beach, TVGuestpert, and we raise the profile of experts in the media. We help them get their messages out to the media. And I feel like what we do is we raise, all of our clients are like balloons, and we just lift them up and out there, you know, to hit the right audience, to get the right storytelling down, to get the right messaging, but to understand also the system that we're participating in, and also how it is truly, how it is really used, as opposed to what we'd like to think it is. So that's kind of the pivot that I'm, you know, that's my multidimensional pivot. You know, so there's where we go with that. But I think that, I'm trying to move away from that whole spiritual piece, and just really, what is a humanitarian, and how are we making a difference? Like, what is our contribution? What is our knowledge base of information that we have as experts, and how can it serve, you know, larger groups of people?
Sure. Take us back beyond the, you know, where we've been at them.
We came in with so much energy. We're like,
I know.
We're combustible. We came on combustible. Anybody who's listening is like, what did I walk in? I walked in the middle of a conversation. We just had combustible energy is what that was.
Well, these are catalytic times. And that is what the combustion or combustibility is all about.
I welcome it. I personally, Jackie, I welcome it. We need disruption. We need change. We need people to pay attention. We need to wake up. We need to take action in different ways.
I'll seed and self-promote well ahead of the publication of the book that we're writing, but Embrace is the title, and it's the path to resilience in business and in life. And so it's a connection between the ever-present change that exists and how it is that we handle it. Are we in resistance to that change, or do we embrace that change? And how is it that we create alchemy out of these new opportunities, this unknown and this uncertainty that normally produces fear in many people? There are other people who embrace that, who have learned that alchemist's formula, if you will, for embracing and turning change or the unknown into something spectacular that is breathtaking. So let's take a journey backward in time. It could be last year if you want. It could be birth. It doesn't, or pre-birth. But I would love to know about a significant pivot. I know it's something that our audience, our community loves to hear the stories of people who've pivoted, whether it's, again, business, personal, health, or otherwise. And not only what was going on and the vulnerability piece that was triggered in that, whatever that situation might have been, but also what did you learn? What's the wisdom that you came away with? Because this show is called The Conscious Pivot. And I think that's what we're all about, is making conscious, better choices. And we do that when we're more conscious. And we can't always do that ahead of having some tough experiences in life. So
yeah, I love the questioning. You know, it's so funny when you have pivots. Sometimes when you're going through it, you kind of can't tell it's a pivot. You know, all you know is it's a dismantling.
It's a complete annihilation of the structure of my life in this moment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You know, and you know, there's that pivot, but there's also the conscious pivot. It's the one, you know, you're going through.
Yes.
You know, it's uncomfortable, and you're systematically taking it down as opposed to it just being taken down for you.
Well, it's like you're building a house. You design a house, or do you simply have them show up like on the job site with a bunch of wood and a bunch of nails and hammers? One is a design way of looking at construction of something, and the other is by default. Something will be built by default. And I think a lot of us are leading lives often by default and in default mode. So yes, please take us to that.
I think I've had a couple. I've had my own versions of it, but the one that feels very significant, and because I mentor a lot of business owners here in the Los Angeles area in their businesses outside of just my own business, mostly women who are starting their companies, but. I was a showrunner, so I worked in television, talk shows. My background, my Emmy nominations are from Donnie and Marie, but I produced for Maury Povich and Geraldo and Montel Williams and CNBC and Wall Street Journal television. And then I moved to Los Angeles from New York City to launch a lot of startup talk shows, as well as we did a lot of pilots. And I really enjoyed it. I was a showrunner for 2 TV shows and around the 2004-2006 period. One was for TV Guide Channel, the other one was for AMC. I was the showrunner, and the one show was called Sunday Morning Shootout. And some of our guests at that time in 2006 included Harvey Weinstein, Brett Ratner, Kevin Spacey.
Holy smokes!
Let me see who else was in that. Oh, Jeremy Piven.
Oh, no way!
So this is one of those pivots that happens to you.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I was in the process of, I had just gotten my first book published by Source Books out of Naperville, Chicago, Get on TV, pitching the producers and promoting yourself. I was just on the cover of Women's World magazine. The show had gotten to the 100th episode. We did have Steven Spielberg on, who is not, doesn't have the same, it's not of the same list. Well, it doesn't resonate with the same list, but, and there was a congrats in Variety. And I just bought my first house. And my biggest fear was that I would lose my job after my first house. And they gave me. Are
you feeling that right now? Is that what just came up?
Well, I did. Did you see that?
I did. I saw the emotion come. This is available on YouTube as well as, when we are podcasting. So it's great. That's beautiful that you let yourself feel that. So,
yeah, visceral. So they gave me the, we're going to go in another direction lecture after the 100th episode, which was a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
And here I have this brand new house in West Los Angeles, and I'm not going to make my first mortgage payment with the paychecks that I've been receiving.
So your fear was materialized
like that. I'm a great manifester.
Wow.
So I am very conscious about what I focus on. So that's what happened. But as a result of it, I've been in the house 12 years, and I'm going through a remodel right now. Speaking of another pivot, like symbolically and externally, I made a payment. The time I made my mortgage payment was off the business. So that business supported me, TVGuestpert Publishing, TV on Camera training. So the fear was never realized the way I expected it to be, in a self-destructive way. Mm-hmm. And also I later get, you just watch also what happened through the industry, the wave, the crescendo, this hashtag last year, hashtag me too, all of that. And, it's just like I got moved out of the way of something that was not ultimately in my best interest. But sometimes when you're going through those moments and times, because it was a very fun show to produce. We went to the Cannes Film Festival. We were at Sundance. It was such a fabulous time in my career. But that was a pivot. That was definitely a pivot that I wouldn't say I was choosing. It happened to me, mm-hmm. But I did pivot and got my entrepreneurial swim legs on really fast, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, that's interesting. I even wrote down, is describing pivots, there's the with you pivot and the to you pivot. And that's sort of design and default. So I appreciate that languaging of it. Yeah, it's so interesting. And how many people are out there that are also have gotten their entrepreneurial swim fins on, and have had to do that.
And that's been my give back, because I think when you're running a TV show anyway, you kind of run it like an entrepreneur. I mean, you're given budget. So I had the architecture to run a business, but if you don't have the architecture to structure a business, it can go a lot of different ways. So with the work we do here at TVGuestpert, and when promoting, using PR and media to promote people's business, I'm also very specific of how that translates to the growth of their business. Like, what is the actual ROI of it? Sometimes it's just the exposure, and that's enough because it is the credibility. Sometimes it's clients, sometimes it's selling books, sometimes it's a setup for the next narrative that you're going to be creating. So I pay attention to those, having had that experience. And
well, in speaking,
not flying.
yeah, I mean, you spoke reality into existence on some level. How often we do that, I just don't know that everybody's conscious of the fact that they have that degree of power. And I don't typically discuss that, or it doesn't come up often on this show, because I don't know why. I mean, it's one of those things that is sort of in the book of what's true. When we speak things, just like in the Bible, and I'm not a religion guy, but I certainly really think there's great wisdom in the Bible, and certainly there's even greater wisdom in the interpretation of those stories and everything that's there to witness. And even the first, in the beginning there is light, and it's God that says, "Let there be light." It's speaking something into existence. At least that's one way to interpret it. And so how often we are speaking things into our existence. We say, "Let there be light," or "Let there be darkness," all the time, don't we?
So I was not going here at all, because you gave me a great lead into something that you actually don't know about, because you're speaking into existence the story I'm going to tell. The book that I'm working on personally for myself is actually The Limitation of Language, and how our language is the limitation of our consciousness, because we confine definitions by words and our ability to communicate. And I think it's always so funny, and just as a biblical reference, that I think light language, what you two just said, was the first language, light and sound, and then it got, for us where we are now, it got very truncated. And I was in Scotland a couple of years ago, and and I've been through Ireland and Scotland, and really enjoyed hearing the Gaelic language, which you can see our language is a drop down from the lightness of that language. So anyway, it's an interesting language itself, is an interesting construct, is where I'm going with that. But I've been writing that out in a future book of mine as well. So you brought it up. You called it into speaking. But you were making the original point about my biggest fear.
Yes.
At the time. And so I get that. It's funny,
where has fear played a role in your life, other than in that particular situation? Because that's another one of those topics that I think people, they sort of wear it internally. They don't walk around going, "Hey, by the way, I'm really scared right now, and here's what I'm really scared about." Like, who does that? Nobody.
I would definitely not say I'm immune to fear. Would never claim that. I think that if I would probably be a beam of light and not be necessary to be on the planet anymore, if that were true. But I have made a significant peace with fear in my life. Like, I have a separate relationship with fear. Fear is no longer me. I believe that I lived in so much fear and terror that it was the anxiety, and I spent my whole life running a little bit ahead of it, and that was the world I was creating. Now that it's not something that is, I don't feel like it is me. Has its own. I'm like, oh, there we are, fear. Oh, we're having a fear moment. Oh, look at that. I have a healthier relationship to fear with fear. So it's funny, because as a pivot now, I feel, I love what you said, pivot to me or pivot by me.
With you pivot, or to you pivot?
Yes. Yeah. So now I feel that I have the consciousness to have a much better pivot by me, as opposed to one that's done to me. So instead of being, having the universe throw a dismantlement upon me for me to move through the lessons, I'm able to understand that I'm going to go through an internal change that's going to reflect an externalized reconstruction of my reality, of my existence. And I always say, in terms of fear or discomfort, my practice is getting comfortable with the discomfort. I'm like, that discomfort's not going anywhere. So now my internal work is to become very comfortable with my discomfort. And I do that with fear. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to be very comfortable with this fear right now. And I like fear in a weird way, because it's activating, and nothing will move you out of your comfort zone sometimes like fear will.
That's true. So
Sometimes fear will keep you in your comfort zone too, but
so the dialogue that you're describing, this is very much your inner dialogue. Like you're not just, this is not you explaining it for the purposes of our audience. This is you actually having a dialogue with yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. I talk like this on every podcast I ever do.
Yeah. But I mean with you and you.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly it. I'm like, okay, here I got some fear. I could feel it. Where is it in the body?
Yes.
What's it really on, or what am I trying to place it on? I love the displacement. Sometimes I pretend it's over here when it's really right here, because I don't want to deal with right here.
Right up in your grill.
Throw it over here and do a little bait and switch to myself, or bait and switch to somebody else. Yeah.
So I would love to know your thoughts on resilience. What do you think about the word? How will you define it? What's the importance of it in your life, business or personal life, or both? Yeah.
So you know what? Because we're just talking about a book that I'm working on about language. So I see resilience in the word resilience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Resilience. Okay.
So immediately what I think of when I see resilience is going back in, pulling it back in, and getting real quiet. And if I were to tune into where my own strength or resilience comes from, it would come from that place of tuning back into myself and pulling myself back into me, and fortifying my own strength again as necessary, because life happens on life's terms. We're not, the one things about the laws of attraction conversation or the manifestation conversation, which I sometimes offensively say is also spiritual kindergarten, is that we're also not in control of a lot of things, no matter how much. No matter how much we wish
really?
It's so, it's so, think it's so, pretend.
I didn't know. I haven't noticed that actually.
Right? It'd be a very different place, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So resilience is something that, because we're in a lot of moving dynamics that we can't control. Resilience is a really important place within the self, at least for me, that I need to be in touch with so that I can fortify.
How important is it to you, do you think, in your evolution, in the evolutionary process for you personally, that concept of refortifying or going in and becoming quiet to gain some insight?
Oh yeah, I'm professionally, I'm like this. Personally, I'm a hermit.
Yes,
I put it out. I put it all out. I put it out for everybody else. I push forward, and then I have to come right back in. I'm like literally like the ocean. I'm a big wave, and then I recede back in. Yeah. So that would be my rhythm for that.
Interesting. Yeah. So the path that you're on right now, has this been the path you've been on for a very long time, or did you deviate from that at some point in the past?
I was 6 years old. I think I was 1976, 1977. And I was schooled in a particular religion. But I saw Star Wars and I was like, the Force. Somebody else other than me gets it. So I kind of like had that inside all along. But unlike people who go out to seek it, I wasn't in a situation where it was reflected back to me. So the structures, the society, the family, not to anybody's fault, just that wasn't reflected back to me. So I always questioned it. I always questioned that sensibility about myself. And it's taken me this long in my life now to be really solid about it. So that would be my resilience. And it's been a fortifying piece of certainty about who I am and what I know. So yes, the answer to the question, it's been there a long time. And
it's not endurance. I mean, when you're talking about resilience, it's not endurance by itself, right? It's not just about perseverance, is it? Is it about only determination, or is it more holistic in nature than that?
Well, resilience to me it reminds me, remember that blow up doll that gets knocked down and then comes up again, and he can because I feel like with resilience is that inner part of ourselves that that will hold us up even through circumstances of maybe of our own doing or undoing, but also life on life's terms. And I think that we really need resilience when we're dealing with life on life's terms. Like, I think that's a really beautiful quality about resilience, but it is an endurance. And I don't think endurance sometimes can be a sister to tolerance. And I don't know necessarily if tolerance is always in our best interests. You know?
Almost like acceptance, so the serenity prayer is really one of these things people love. I love it. It's great. And, I certainly want to be wise enough to know the battles I should fight and the ones that I should just simply not fight or accept. But there's a difference between when dealing with change, what you were talking about earlier about fear and change, anything that's unknown brings fear to the forefront. And to be able to utilize it to create an alchemy, which is the word used earlier as well, around that change, we have to do more than just accept it. Acceptance is almost like resignation or tolerance, the way you described it. And to me, embracing that change, making, as I think Ram Dass said, making friends with change. I would say making change your best friend. Because in this world we're living in, the fact that change is so prolific, it's with us all the time. It's exponentially more so every day. To simply tolerate it or to accept it is still or endure it. Yes. Oh, grudgingly.
Behind the word endure is like torture already.
Does sound like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking in terms of where companies are. So we've got a lot of people in this community who are entrepreneurs or running small companies or have started them up on the side, et cetera. How important is that for companies, do you think, to have that resilience be one of their core qualities, the core value even?
So this is a smart question because for the company that we've been in business 12 years, we're solvent. I love that. We've been through so many disruptions already, industry disruptions that are out of our hands. When we started TVGuestpert, there was no Facebook. There was no social media. And TVGuestpert was this idea of creating a community of experts for television producers, was in its simplicity. Facebook, we're actually upstairs from Facebook and we share a floor with Instagram, ironically. It just happened that way, but that's where we're at in Playa Vista. But they did not exist when I started TVGuestpert. I was just trying to do some sort of online match.com for my producing colleagues for my media consulting clients that I had. It was really what that started at. And so I have had to pivot my company many times in the culture of the entertainment industry because that has changed. I just met with a filmmaker this past week who has done some projects. And I think we're going to be able to bring some financing into an upcoming project that he needs to do. But even the culture of studio systems has changed fast. The social media to me is still the wild west. Our company just started offering these what we're calling 365 days of social media campaigns where we pre-produce your lineup of content so we can do a multi-layer narrative over a course of a year and you're not just putting stuff up every day. So that we're actually creating a story. But that to me, the social media game of becoming famous and having followers and how does that really translate to money in your pocket or your business? A lot of those things are still to be determined. So for us, the resilience of us as a company is had to stay really true to our core business, let go of the services or the applications within our business that are already timed out and step forward, but all while holding on to our core business. And so we've had to navigate. I'm always amazed because we've had to stay technologically competitive because of where we are and what we do and where we compete, where we also prosper. So we've had a lot of shifts to navigate in a very tight 12 years. It's been amazing, but yeah, resilience would be definitely it. And I'm looking at all the cannabis businesses that have proliferating. It's a whole nother disruption of businesses and a whole new industry that's in taking on. So there's a lot of room for opportunity and I think the old paradigm is definitely dying out. I don't feel that the new paradigm is completely defined in its structure, which is awesome in a really entrepreneurial spirit way. But at the same time, it's a little like you're too ahead of your time. You're literally too ahead of your time.
Yeah, interesting. I would love to get, in the couple of minutes we've got left, share a little bit about that old paradigm that you feel is dying out. Because I know you and I kind of had a little laugh about that earlier, but I'd love to dive below the surface just a little bit there.
Yes. Well, I think the old paradigm was definitely self-serving. I think we're getting, especially what we're doing, we're getting way more involved in community, collaboration, cooperation as, principles. Everybody's listening to this podcast is already in alignment with that, but those structures are not going to hold. Even in the entertainment industry, where a big studio buys an entire market share for $150 million to make a movie successful. So, and we're just, I feel like what we're doing as entrepreneurs is we're literally pulling the bricks out from the bottom of it. Even if we're not the main disruptor, we're pulling the bricks out, and it's just gonna a stack of how that's just gonna fall, right, collapse down. And it's needed to be. The old structures are, profit, single decision makers, not, team leaders. The one thing the millennials really are bringing to the table in the workforce, in my opinion, is they're really bringing that whole team collaboration. Like they definitely don't hold the old paradigm structure. Not to say that their structure is perfect either, but the older structure of that dictatorial, patriarchal, this
hierarchical.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's going to go away with the way people earn their money, and it's really going to shift out. So
is that related to the guru thing when you said kind of the gurudom is going out?
Yeah, and why that's a big deal to me is because I'm in the business of promoting, and one could, I know that we're sometimes perceived as making gurus, what I hope that we are really good at doing is helping people express their professional wisdom to a larger audience that can benefit from it. That's, where we like to intend from. But I do think that whole guru thing is good because here's the other thing I know from my business, people are tired of being told what to do. If you're going to tell them what to do, they want to see how you do it.
Yes.
They want to know that you've gone through it, which is what your books are about. They want to know that you've experienced it. Now I'm going to listen to you because you had the experience. That's where the credibility comes in, is that we're going to be following people because they actually they walk their talk. They just don't tell us. Because we're done with that. Like, watch what I do, but don't do what I do, but watch.
What's that old expression? I have great advice that I'm not using. Would you like it?
Yeah, that one too. That's exactly it.
All right. Well, I'd love to find out in terms of how it is that we are constantly pivoting, and pivoting, the ability to successfully pivot or consciously pivot helps you to become more resilient. It's part of what came through in this conversation. What are the things that you do on a ritualistic basis, the things you're consciously doing that are, sort of step beyond a habit? I think of habits as being very much unconscious things we do, but those conscious habits or rituals that support you in evolving and being able to pivot as things change around you.
They say if you do a good deed and you tell someone about it, it doesn't count. So, but this morning I dropped off like 10 bags of ice at the West Los Angeles dog shelter because it's been really hot here.
Yeah.
Like just a simple thing like that. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a lot of money. Just dropped off a couple, like that keeps me tuned up into service for others. I'm big on like sacred quiet space. I take a lot of input during the day and a lot of communication during the day. So my bedroom life doesn't have a lot of technology. It has no technology. I like the silence. I love silence. When I get silence, I'm like, I could marinate in it. I'm really about silence. I drink tons of water. It's water with my mint leaves, right? Like, yeah, exactly. I'm always with the hydration. I mean, I don't think it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to, be enlightenment on a mountain. And I love it's Buddha, right? Buddha says what happens when you reach enlightenment, you chop wood, fetch water. Like that's it. I try to make healthy food choices. I try to sleep well. I try to be kind to others, and I take, I make sure I'm in alignment with my actions, words, thoughts, deeds on a daily basis. So I think it doesn't have to be that complicated. And did I answer that question?
You did.
Yeah.
And I'm marinating in your answer. So I really appreciate that greatly. I appreciate you so much, Jackie.
Thank you so much.
You've been a wonderful, wonderful person to have on the show. I hope all of you have, as I have, enjoyed this time, enjoyed listening to what I feel is great wisdom that comes from somebody that's been in the business space, seen a lot of disruption, and not just managed it or survived it, but is really thriving in it. And I think that's daily practice. The things that you do contribute to that.
Yeah,
so if you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. If you, for some reason, have other feedback, we're asking you to please leave a review. I mean, I'd love the 5-star reviews, but what your feedback is so important to us. It's how we grow. So you can leave a review on iTunes. You can leave a comment at adammarkel.com/podcast. Of course, if you haven't joined our Facebook community yet, really is a wonderful group of people who are pivoting very much in the ways that we've been discussing today. And you can get there by going to startmypivot.com, or you can go to pivotfb.com, and that'll take you to the front door as well and join that community, which would be lovely to just have you with us. Before we finish out, I would love to remind myself and remind all of you that how we begin our day, the ritual that we have for how we start a day, is as important a thing as I know. So there's not that many things I'm that confident in. This is one of them. The first thoughts that you have, the first actions you take upon waking. So my hope, my prayer, my gratitude is that you wake up tomorrow, that we all get to wake up tomorrow, because it's not guaranteed. There was no guarantee we'd wake up today, and yet we did. And when you do wake up tomorrow and you realize that you are, in fact, oh, yeah, listen to the guy on the podcast. Yes, he said something about waking up. And you realize, yes, I am waking up now. And you're conscious of it. You're taking that first breath. You can remind yourself there are people everywhere who are taking their very last breath as you're taking your first. So regardless of what challenge there might be in your life, or things that maybe you just don't want to do today, or whatever, maybe your mood is just, for whatever reason, you're waking up and feeling like I'm a little down or something, recognize that that's a blessing, that breath is a gift. It's holy, it's sacred. And if nothing else comes to you in that moment that you could be grateful for that breath. But obviously we have so many things to be grateful for. And I'll leave it to you to create your list and allow yourself to marinate in that feeling upon waking. And then lastly, so step 1 is wake up. Step 2, to be grateful in that moment. And step 3, if you're willing to say it, to declare it out loud. I'm actually wearing the shirt today. I don't wear it every day or every podcast, but it does say it on the shirt. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. I hope you do as well. We'll see you soon, everybody. Ciao for now.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you now have the tools and greater insights to navigate your own pivot. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at adammarkel.com/podcasts. For more tips, strategies, and support as you consciously pivot into a new business and lifestyle you love, join our Pivot community on Facebook at pivotfb.com.